In the studios, it's time for The Big Issue. Joining me, we have Gabriela Tete. She's a member of the NDC Communications team. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
Very well.
And also, Laratu Musa Saka is a member of the NPP Communications team. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you as well?
I'm fine, thank you.
You've heard the concerns by some Ghanaians who are demonstrating this morning against the E-levy. They say Yentuya, very passionate views there, of course, by that man, the 70-year-old man who says that I'm worried for my children, for my grandchildren. I'm worried that if money is sent to me, I'm going to have to pay, some E-levy on that. And so that is why I'm demonstrating. What do you say?
Good morning, Bella. Good morning, Gabriela. And good morning to our viewers. I mean, going on a demonstration is within any citizen's right. It's another avenue of expressing concerns and sending a message across. We can only wish them well and entreat the police to give them the best protection, and also entreat the demonstrators to conduct themselves in a way that won't bring anything untoward. So it's within their right. Nobody can take it away from them. But coming to the substantive issue, this is coming up because of agitations with regard to the E-levy and the conversation that has gone on so far. But with the comments of the old man, I think it's fair to call him Grandpa. He has every right to be concerned about his children, to be concerned about his grandchildren. But obviously what he was concerned about was whatever his children were remitting him, which is a fair and genuine concern. But I also thought he could have, because for him to say there's not even a single toilet, I'm wondering where he's living and what he means by those comments. But I also thought he could have also mentioned the other things that are happening.
Like what?
I mean, with all that is going on, at least, if for nothing at all, if he's talking about children, we have in excess of 400,000 plus children hitherto wouldn't have been in school, being enrolled on
He says
free
the education
SHS.
is really bad.
Well, his bad, I mean, I wonder what he meant by bad, but we can only treat it as his opinion, because we all saw the results of the WASI, at least for the first cohort of free SHS graduates. So for him saying it's bad, I'm wondering, and for him saying children come home and stay home at 2 months, because of COVID, children stayed home for 1 year. Thought he would have also mentioned that. I thought you would have mentioned free 1D, 1F. That is a boost to our industrialization drive. I thought he would have mentioned planting for food and jobs. That is one of the things that is putting us in a better position when it comes to food, availability of food.
Has
and
it
other
really?
things.
We faced shortages just towards the end of last year.
Yes, we
when it
faced
came to
shortages,
food.
but we also had issues with abundance of other crops like rice, which the last time we were supposed to talk about how people, I mean, there are challenges with everything, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom. We've made some strides as a nation. When other economies were shrinking, we grew marginally. And which aspect of the economy did we grow? It was the agri sector that contributed to the marginal growth. When other developed countries, we are not saying there are no challenges. There are challenges we are facing. There are challenges we are dealing with. But I don't think this picture of creating it as it's all doom and gloom, nothing is happening, I think it's something we need to look at it. And for an ex-serviceman who thinks it's okay to virtually send a subtle signal of a coup, this Ghana,
You cannot say that for a fact. You cannot say that for a
That was my
fact.
interpretation of what he
But
was
you cannot say that for a
saying,
fact. So let's not put it out
Johnny
there and make it look
Johnny
like...
asked him, that is not 2024. What did he say? They're not doing anything. We need to kick them out. How do you kick
But he
government
says
out
that
when
if
it's not
he were
through the
younger,
ballot?
we would have seen.
Well, thank God
he did not exactly say that he would organize a coup.
What is he telling the younger officers? But touch wood, if anything should happen in this country, there's no other Ghana that anybody will relocate to. And we've seen what is happening across the sub-region. We've seen all that is happening. Just a couple of days back, there was an ECOWAS summit to try and deal with some of these things. So sometimes when we are making utterances, he's an elderly man. By our upgrading and by our training, we should accord him a certain level of respect. But I think elderly people should also be measured in what they say and what they put out there in the public. Because this is the only country we have. No matter how we see it, we are better off living in peace than calling for chaos that will not do anything. We're having challenges and we don't run away from it. But we need to be measured in the kind of things we say. There's no Ghana annex or another Ghana that is sitting somewhere that we can comfortably move to if this one is in chaos. We need to talk. They are expressing their opinion the best way they think they can. They are channeling their concerns to media is there, the security is there. They are Ghanaians. They are within their rights. But we need to be careful with some of these.
But should it not bother you then that a section of Ghanaians, if not many of them, are speaking against the E-levy and the fact that you have run down the economy so bad, which is why they are hitting the streets, just to let you know that we're not happy. You have deceived us. You made promises that you have not fulfilled. And so at this point, we are telling you that we're not happy.
The Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government took this country when we were under conditionalities of the IMF. There was freeze on employment. We were subject to all kinds of, and gradually steered us out of it. This was a country that the previous administration took from a low middle income and brought us back to where we started from.
We've been downgraded, by the way. Moody's has downgraded us to CAA1.
But at least our...
Fitch downgraded us as well with a negative outlook.
Fitch downgraded us and went back to make a correction. So we are still where we are. Moody's downgraded us, no doubt about it. But it's still stable. They give us a stable outlook.
So your point being? My
point being, it's not only Ghana that is in crisis. Every nation across the world, because of the pandemic, we are suffering. Let me ask a simple question. Before March 2020, a budget was presented last year for this year. We are still debating it. 2020 budget was presented in 2019. We got hit by COVID in March 2020. Apart from health sector, even if we want to go basic, apart from health sector institutions, the hospitals and other facilities that require the consumables like masks, sanitizers on a daily basis because of their kind of operations. How many institutions budgeted for such consumables? But we got hit by COVID. So there was no doubt with the president saying that he knows how to bring the economy back to life, but he doesn't know how to bring human beings back to life if they die. And he meant it. Nobody is denying we are having challenges. But how we surmount those challenges is what we should be looking at.
By burdening the Ghanaian even more? Is that how you surmount those challenges?
Without sounding insensitive and without sounding disrespectful to Ghanaians, who should we take, who contributes to building the nation?
You receive so much money from the World Bank, and this week we've heard from one of their leaders who said we got about $455 million dollars from them. And so if that's the case, what did we use all that money for?
We got about 430 from what the World Bank officials said. But if you went further down and not limiting yourself to the headline alone, there was a breakdown of what the money was used for. All portions of the money were tied to upgrading hospitals. They were tied to activities.
That's not the only amount that we received.
And we're giving
we received money from the IMF.
We're giving 130 million specifically for vaccines, right? As it goes now. And he went further to say Ghana has the likelihood of getting an extra 60 million. If that money hadn't been utilized for, I don't think they'll be considering adding on more. But that aside, we've gotten a lot of money. We've but have you also juxtaposed it to or compared it to the things that have been done?
We've been asking for a breakdown. Ghanaians have been asking for a breakdown. We heard from the health minister yesterday explaining why he's not gone to parliament to give us the breakdown of what the monies were used for. But this is money that's up to 33 billion Ghana cedis. If we look at the $2 billion we got from IMF, if we look at the 250 million that we took from the stabilization fund, 10 billion from the central bank, these are monies that we're asking that government accounts for. So at least we know that it was used for exactly this and that. But if you don't account for that, and now you come back and tell us that the economy is in shambles and so Ghanaians should pay a lot more, which is why you're introducing the E-levy, then of course you'd get the kind of pushback that you're getting now.
Bella, there are challenges, I keep saying, right? You're talking about breaking down. But let's even assume there's nothing to break down. You haven't seen any improvement in this country. You haven't seen all the interventions we put in place. As of 2020, the economy was growing at an average of 7%, right? We grew marginally in 2021 when others were shrinking. We talk about free SHS. We talk about, you may not see in the short term the commitment that we are making with all these monies. But in another 10 to 20 years, I hope we'll be having this conversation. Let's take free SHS. Now you have our standard of education, the basic now being extended to, okay, now you are having students. So now you're moving your quality of human resource from JHS to SHS. And this is being made possible because now a number of children who would have been at home because their parents don't have resources to send them to school are in school. That's in excess of over 400,000. And the number keeps on. You get it? No doubt about it. Everything you implement, you get challenges here. You set up to roll out a show. You get technical challenges. You deal with them. You roll out a new program. You get challenges. You roll out a new device. You decide to change your equipment on your set. You have challenges. Challenges will come with initiatives. Challenges will come with novel interventions. But is free SHS a bad thing? Is planting for food and jobs a bad thing? Look at 1D, 1F. Over 200 factories coming up. The number of jobs it will create. What it will add on to the national kitty. The taxes that will come on, the social corporate responsibility that these factories will contribute to the communities they find themselves in. Let's look at the bigger picture.
Okay. Let's look at the bigger picture, Gabriella. Why are we not looking at the bigger picture and just concerned about this E-levy and saying that we're not going to pay? I mean, looking at what Lerato has said, the government has implemented a lot of things that would improve the economy, and yet we're complaining that things are not the way we expect them to be.
Let me say good morning to our viewers. And let me start off by rebutting a few of the things she said, and I can get to your point. First of all, there's not in Lorato's mouth to put words in the old man's narrative. He's speaking from his reality, and his reality is that his children remit him, and he's afraid of losing money from taxes on the remittances. His kids and his grandchildren, he's worried about their future because the Ghana that he has lived in for the past 74 years is not the Ghana that he sees today. And as somebody from the older generation, he's worried. I did not hear anywhere where he subtly made allusions that he was interested in a coup. A 74-year-old man is thinking about whether he's going to make heaven or not, and not coups. The big picture. Bella, when you look at a work of art, you can concentrate on a little fraction of the painting or whatever art it is, and you can get an appreciation of what the masterpiece is. When you look at this current administration and this current economy that we are in, you've had 344.1 billion Ghana cedis.
Actually, 0.5.
0.5 Ghana cedis, billion Ghana cedis. It did not change our fortunes. You've made it as if this 6 billion is the miracle drug like Viagra that will solve a lot of problems. But what 344 could not do? What makes us think that 6 billion can solve? You've given us planting for food and jobs, and how there was a rice glut. Yes. But then also, there were also reversal of benchmark values, which now makes imports cheaper compared to locally produced rice. So there isn't even proper cohesion between your policies. How is it that as a country, since President Kufuor's era, to President Atta Mills, to President Mahama, we have systematically developed and expanded rice cultivation in this country? But yet, government is still unable to take the bull by the horn and put in proper policies that protects domestic production of rice as against imported rice.
We're told it's a gradual process, and by 2023 we will ban the importation.
We've been growing rice.
rice.
We've been growing rice at least from the time that we took rice production seriously. Even if we will not start from the 60s, and we'll start from President Kufuor's era to President Atta Mills to President Mahama, we've gone through minimum 20 years. How many years did it take Nigeria to turn their rice import bill around and become a strong local producer of rice? The rice we are producing currently, it is mostly the Nigerians who are buying it, because you've made imported rice so cheap that compared to local production, which guarantees the jobs that is within your so-called planting for food and jobs framework, that in a sector that protects those jobs, you're denying them. People who went and took microfinance, went to rural banks to go and borrow funds to put into rice production, are counting their losses, because some of them can't even harvest the rice. If they harvest it and they store it, they are unable to keep it for long. Nobody is coming to buy it. The aggregators are not coming. The big mills are holding stock, which is not moving. And your government is not even attempting, through your Ministry of Trade, to put in any pragmatic solutions that will help these local rice producers and manufacturers to sell in the Ghanaian market.
Buffer Stock said that they were going to take in the excess produce and store it for when there's a shortage. At least they are making an effort.
Government of Ghana currently owes Buffer Stock 300 million. What money are they going to use to buy the rice from the aggregators and the mills? So this is a very confused government.
It's unfair to say that they are confused. It's unfair to say so.
They are confused.
They have implemented policies.
They are confused, Bella. How you're implementing policies, but there has to be cohesion in your policy. That is why you have a cabinet. That is why you have Minister of Agric, Minister for Trade. All two of them sit at cabinet. All two of them sit at economic management meeting, and they are supposed to judge. So there's some uniformity in policy.
Lorato says that we'll see the results of these policies
in 20 years' time. In 20 years' time.
And that it's not instant.
In 20 years' time. When Nkrumah and Co were developing their development plan, did the people of Ghana at that era not see the impact of their development plans?
But at least we're seeing the impact now.
When Mills and Mahama were leading this country, with the people not seeing the impact of their governance, we should sit here, after sitting here and watching you 6 years, we should now wait for another 20 years before we can see what you have done for us.
Ghanaians complained about the impact of the governance of former President Mahama, which is why they voted him out. You don't think that that's a reason?
Comparing President Mahama and President Akufo-Addo, if you go on the streets with your microphones and your cameras, the people of Ghana will tell you what exactly they think of these two presidents now that posterity is judging. without any human intervention. Just carry your microphone and ask the ordinary Ghanaian, what do you make of these two presidents? And let them give you their own opinion.
We've heard from President Akufo-Addo. He responded to former President Mahama's request for him to also, borrow a leaf from the approaches that he implemented or took.
That's the thing with Akufo-Addo.
Akufo-Addo says that our economy is even better under this pandemic than it ever was under former President Mahama.
Under this, his so-called better economy, we grew at 0.9%. Under this, his so-called better economy, with the 200 factories that he says they have, industry is growing at -4%. With this, their so-called better economy, they paid, what was that working? Is it Moody or Fitch? To come and assess us. And they gave us a downgrade, CAA+, never in our history before. His so-called better economy.
With a stable outlook, by the way.
It is still high risk. Stable or not stable, CAA, any investor who you are offered, Ghana's profile. That's what really is causing this thing. It is about the debt.
But they said that
the unmanageable debt.
Economy will still grow by a projected 5%.
5.4.
On oil. On oil. Since Akufo-Addo came into office, what serious investment has he made in the oil sector? Under the NDC, we invested in 3 oil wells. Every document that you read from 2012 to 2015 always mentioned that even though at that time things were difficult for Ghana, the medium-term outlook was good because of the investment in the oil sector. Ghana is benefiting from that investment in the oil sector. This is not Akufo-Addo. It is not Akufo-Addo. He has not put one cedi in the oil sector, aside from sharing oil blocks. Don't give the credit to Akufo-Addo. This is not his.
But even with Moody's and the ratings that they gave, we heard from the finance ministry. They put out a statement and said that the team from Moody's came to Ghana to do an assessment. They had a meeting, and in fact, they presented all the documents to them.
And
Moody's decided to go ahead.
They
said Moody's decided to go ahead and ignore the details that they gave them and went to give them a rating, and that we should relook at how some of these foreign rating agencies rate African nations because they are biased against us.
3 other local banks were also downgraded because they have given so much money to government. It wasn't just Ghana government that was downgraded. 3 of our banks have also been downgraded.
It doesn't mean that government should not contest it if they are not comfortable with the ratings that have been given, especially looking at the details.
What is there to
and they're saying that the person who led the ratings agency is new and does not understand the Ghanaian economy.
No amount of defense is going to help government out of this scenario. I paid you to come and assess me. After all that, I gave you the information you need to assess me. You looked through all those documents and you still gave me negative ratings. And I'm sitting here telling you, in fact, you didn't assess me well. I have to go and set up my own rating agency because I don't believe in what you said about me. But 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, all their ratings were credible. The very one that unfortunately has shocked you is the one that you are starting on to tell all of us that we don't believe in this rating agency. They are a joke. They should get serious. Governance is serious business. Where we are going in this country, we don't need government to come and play with us the way these people play with us. I think that we are some ignorant, manundering fools that they can play any games they want with.
Okay,
they should get serious with the issue of governance. Akufo-Addo should go back and read what Mahama told him. This country needs a national economic forum. We need to cap this debt. She was talking about when we went to IMF and there was a freeze in employment. Tell her, even with our freeze,
she can hear you.
Even with our freeze, you are the moderator. Even with our freeze, under President Mills, we created 111,000 jobs. Under President Mahama, we created 112,000 jobs. It's very easy to remember this number because of how they flow. Under Akufo-Addo,
President Akufo-Addo.
Under Akufo-Addo.
Under President Akufo-Addo. Let's accord him the respect. He's the president.
And under Akufo-Addo.
President.
Do you want us to move on? Under Akufo-Addo, from 2017 to 2021, 6 years in office, he's only been able to create 83,000 jobs in the public sector. If you compare him to President Mills, he falls short. If you compare him to President Mahama, he falls short. To put these two gentlemen together and compare to Akufo-Addo, he pales.
But that's against a figure that the National Youth Organizer had put out before the elections, before elections 2020.
Who's the National Youth Organizer? What data does he have?
Had created 2 million jobs. And you even came to contest and you said that you had even created 1 million jobs as well.
This is what is in their budget. This is what is in their budget on public sector employment. She spoke about freeze on employment, which was public sector employment. This is their performance in public sector employment. So even if with IMF we could still manage this, all you heard in the narrative about the IMF supervision of our economy was that there was a freeze in employment. We could still create jobs.
So if with all those, challenges with the IMF, we are still asking them to go back, we're asking government to go back.
They have gone back for 2 billion.
Forcing them to make the same mistakes that we may have made?
Which mistakes were that?
The fact that we went back to the IMF and they dictated how we run our economy?
No, they did not dictate to us how we run the economy.
But there was a freeze on employment. They told us that we cannot employ.
No. We went there with our own homegrown developed solutions. That means that we put people who had brains together to think for us at Senchi. Everybody asked us, you people went to Senchi, what are you going to do in Senchi? We developed, I think there were like 11 thematic areas, which were in line with our development agenda, medium-term development agenda for this country. So 11 different subgroups to each think about a thematic area. The recommendations they made, one of which, the macro economic team, were the ones that suggested we should go to IMF. That was their recommendation. We went with these policies and we told the IMF, what we need from you is policy credibility. Because see, like the same way these rating agencies have given Akufo-Addo
President Akufo-Addo, please, let's accord him that respect. I'm sorry, but I cannot sit here and allow you to call former President
out of respect
Mahama
for your platform,
and yes, please.
Out of respect for your platform, I reference him as that. I'm not used to this. Okay, so you see now you disturb my flow.
I'm sorry.
Stop interrupting me.
I'll let you come in.
She had 10 minutes to talk.
Don't worry.
I've only done 4. So
you've been
Bella,
checking?
I've been checking. So Bella. So Bella.
Carry on.
Don't start with me.
Carry on.
So I'm really tired this morning. So Bella, we went with solutions to what we think will help this country. We do not depend on the IMF to draft solutions for us.
Did the IMF not tell us that if we're going for this money, then we'll have to put a freeze on public employment?
The same problem we had why we needed that freeze on public sector employment. Today, as it stands, under their administration, a monument alone compensation is 35 billion. You are spending 35 billion to pay 712,000 workers. 30% of our domestic revenue is going into paying only 715,000 people. We had an issue with ghost workers. We needed to do an audit on payroll. How do we do an audit when the systems are recruiting? So you have to freeze unemployment. Nobody comes on payroll, except when somebody dies and there's a replacement, because that has already been budgeted for. All right? And then we can now look at where are the so-called ghost numbers coming from to help us with the expenditure on compensation. That was why we had the freeze on unemployment. And even when we had a freeze on unemployment, there were still enough programs within the private sector that we had initiated that were creating jobs in the economy. Here's the case, so many businesses are struggling, so many companies are struggling. Talk to AGI, talk to Chamber of Commerce. Everybody is complaining. Everybody is complaining. Your youth are complaining.
That's why they're taking the E-levy. They want to take the E-levy so they can create jobs for the youth.
So 6 years, the 6 years that they came and told us NAPCO will solve all the youth unemployment problem. What were they doing?
Those were temporary jobs. Those were temporary. Quick question before I go back to Leratu. So you are demonstrating today. Of course, the NDC is part of the concerned Ghanaians who are demonstrating, saying Yentia. What happens if government still goes ahead to pass the E-levy and you come into power later? Would you cancel the E-levy?
I can't respond to that question because I don't take those kind of decisions. It's above me. My job is to communicate. And I've not heard any conversation around the E-levy or even the semblance of government NDC accepting E-levy. There's no conversation about when we come to power, are we going to maintain it or we are going to...
I'm asking this because you opposed the CST when it was being introduced by former president.
The whole mindset and the whole focus is, it is not happening. That it is the immediate that we are focused on.
It was the same position the NDC took when former President Kufuor was introducing the CST. It was still passed anyway. And a number of Ghanaians expected that you'd come back, you'd come into power and cancel it. But you came into power and increased the percentage as well, which is why I'm asking that would we see something similar so that if Ghanaians are looking at you...
we increase the percentage of CST or they increase percentage? They increase percentage of CST. They increased it to 50%. The President Kufuor told us that... 50%. Madam, please. President Kufuor told us that Ghanaian youth needed jobs. He went and used some demonstrators' images to push that all these people need jobs. So they should tax the people of Ghana to create jobs for the youth. When they created their NYEP, you know how much corruption was in there? How much of those communication tax incomes were being shared amongst some big people? This same CST that they said was going to solve our problems, that money goes into the consolidated fund. It is not an earmark fund that is dedicated solely for the youth. If they are serious about addressing this issue, it's not E-levy they'll be introducing. They will ring fence the CST and let it be a standalone fund to address youth unemployment. If that's how they want to solve youth unemployment, you don't let it stay in the consolidated fund. So you just dip in anyhow you want, and then come back and tell us that the youth still need jobs. So after E-levy, you get E-levy, then you come back and because unemployment, you always have to be creating jobs for young people.
E-levy is for roads as well.
So if there are no issues, yes, including putting toilets in the middle of the motorway.
That's not part.
That's
not part. And the minister has come out to say that, you know, it was just a suggestion. It was lost in translation. But let me bring Lerato in to respond to some of these issues.
Even before I go on, you see, when Gabriela was talking about they going to Sinchi, she said they put people with brains, right, to put together plans and everything, homegrown solutions. I'm curious to know. So you put people with brains in there to
the person you want to mention was not invited.
Gabriela.
She came by herself.
Gabriela.
Let me tell you.
Please allow her to just land. I'll give you the chance to respond.
You are too fond of this.
Lerato, please carry on.
You put people in according to her words. And you see, that's the inconsistency of the NDC that we need to all pay attention to and leave them where they are and concentrate on building this nation. You claim you put people with brains. According to her words, not my words. Because she was part of it then. I wasn't there. To put together solutions that will grow our economy. And you couldn't find those same people to implement that. You had to go to an IMF to make sure the plans that you put together, according to her, with all the brains. So what thinking went into those things? But that aside, she's talking about homegrown solutions. We think and believe that the E-levy is a homegrown solution to our problems. They need to be considered, and sometimes it's the audacity of the NDC that makes it overwhelming. Sometimes we need to raise the discuss.
How so? Because they're saying that you are rather being proud, and maybe it's time to
look at how even this
eat the humble
started
pie and allow them to help you.
Help us do what? What they couldn't do? Help us do what they couldn't do? What is all this talk about go to IMF, go to IMF? To take our plans and say IMF, plans that we have thought through and built and say IMF implemented for us. And even with all the experts that are talking, IMF is an option. It's not the panacea to everything. IMF will give you short term. So
E-levy is not the panacea either.
Exactly, but that is what we think is most appropriate.
And
when we started pushing this, that is why we are still engaging.
Okay.
When we put out this recommendation, if I may, what was the response of the opposition? The rate is too high. You haven't consulted us. We put it on hold. Consult them. Consider a review of the rates. Now, we won't accept it.
You put it on hold?
Has it been passed? We've even withdrawn it to put it because of the changes that have come up based on the consultations that we've had with the proposed reduction by telcos, with a proposed reduction of moving it from 1.75 to 1.75 to 1.5. You have to relay it. But we are still consulting. Today, there's a town hall meeting in Tamale.
In Tamale, yes.
So what are they going to help us do? Ghanaians may feel burdened, no doubt about that. We all live in this country. We all go through it. We all buy food. We all buy fuel. It's not easy. Nobody says it's easy. We are in challenging times. Challenging times that we are in, not because of anybody's creation, but a creation that nobody anticipated. You keep saying we've overborrowed. Now we want to raise funds in-house. And you have a challenge with that too. It's the inconsistency.
But what did you use all those borrowed monies for?
Bella, we've been through this. I explained what we are. If for nothing at all, there've been road construction, right? We have stable electricity. We sat in this country 4 years in darkness. Who gave even small businesses anything to sustain them? But in the wake of COVID, MBSSI then.
And that came from the money that we got.
Exactly. So if you ask me what the money was used for, that is something that is one of the things the money was used for. We bought consumables. We bought vaccines, all in the wake of reaching herd immunity. Over 24,000 additional health staff were employed. And she's talking about employment. 100 and what thousand within 8 years. We are in our 5th year if we are doing it cumulatively. And I told her here the last time we met, simple addition and subtraction. I'll just take education and health. Let me be modest and put it at 60,000 each for education. That's 120,000.
Is that the actual number?
I'm putting it there. It's above 65%. It's above 65,000 for health. It's above 60. You can check that. These are figures you can check. You can check with GS. You can check with Ghana Health Service or Ministry of Health or Ministry of Education. These are figures you can check. In 5 years, let's even reduce it to that. Forget about all the other jobs that come up to the over 2 million jobs that we've created. Forget about that and let's stick to that. Within 5 years, even if it's 120,000, it's still much more improvement. And you want us to go back to E-levy and end free SHS, IMF and end free SHS? You want us to go back to E-levy and cut all the allowances they cut? That were sustaining poor people. I come from a very deprived region. And when I see a president who comes with social interventions that lightens the burden of the ordinary person in Savannah region where I come from, I think it's a precedent that we need to support.
So if someone in the Savannah region has to send money, we're told that below 100 Ghana cedis, you're considered poor, and so you will not be charged E-levy. Yeah. But let's just say that person may have to send a little above 100 Ghana cedis. This is someone that comes from a very deprived community, and we're telling that person to pay E-levy.
And don't also forget that there was a study that went on, and over 30%, over 30% of mobile money users are below that 100% threshold. So it wasn't like that 100%, that 100 cedis threshold per day was just conjured.
But let's just say that on this particular day, they had to send a little more than 100 Ghana cedis for some business transaction.
I don't think, in all humility, there's anything wrong with paying. I think the discussion we should be having now is how we make sure when E-levy is paid, is passed, how we all make sure as citizens that the money is used for what we have said it will be used for.
Okay.
And there are laws and regulations that ensures that we can all keep track. We are not going to sit down and conjecture and do what our competitors used to do. It's serious business.
Okay.
And lots of study went into proposing this homegrown solution. And I think it may not be popular because of the situation we find ourselves in.
So you constantly update us on what you're using the E-levy money. We're asking for what's the monies from World Bank and all that are being used for as well.
Don't you move
and
with
we're
your
being
cameras.
given stories.
Don't you move with your cameras to institutions to ask questions. These are some of the things you should be following up and stop the
Ghanaians are asking
sensationalism.
you. Ghanaians are asking you.
Ghanaians
but anyway,
are asking us. But how do we
bring
tell
Gabriela
Ghanaians?
into land on
Today,
this particular topic so we can move on.
Meeting.
Okay.
If you don't cover it, how do Ghanaians hear it?
No problem. Gabriela, your final words on this issue with the E-levy so we can move on and talk about the Ghana Airports Company.
Did she say we conjecture? She has sat here and given some data from education. We should go and fact check. The most authoritative document for us to know about the true state of the economy is the budget. It's a report that the finance minister comes to give us in the budget. And these numbers are in the budget. What you are saying is your 69,000 in education and your whatever in wherever. It's a no official document. That is the conjecture. That's what you should know. That is the conjecture.
Covers a period.
One fiscal year. That is the conjecture. And what you say, she put this in proper context.
For policy credibility, that's your 83. Anybody should come and be
please, if you don't understand policy credibility, keep quiet.
Oh, please.
That's 83,000.
Okay,
that 83,000 is, as she said, it's for 6 years. I said cumulatively.
6 years.
President Mills and President Mahama. 8 years, 2 years.
Hold on,
it's over 200,000. If in 8 years we have done over 200,000, and in 6 years, with 2 years to go out of office, you've only done 88,000, which is nowhere near one term of any of these two gentlemen. You want to come and compare yourself?
But the numbers could increase, Gabriela.
In 2 years, they say they are in.
The numbers
They
could increase.
the states that they are in right now. When compensation, it has swallowed 35% of their domestic income. And they are already going to create double deficits this year. And
okay.
they are coming to siphon even coins out of the poor Ghanaian, just so they can balance their budget.
It's for roads, it's for jobs. It's to address cybersecurity.
Please let me say my thing. You think that they can create an additional 120,000 jobs in 2 years?
Okay. Let's end on that then and move on to our next story. And so yesterday, a letter circulated on social media. It was purported to have leaked. It was a letter that was sent to the board chairman of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, indicating that the president had terminated the appointment of the managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, Mr. Yao Kwakwa. Now, yesterday, at the same time when this letter was leaked, we had the Parliamentary Select Committee on Transport also touring the Macdan private lounge just to ascertain if they have ticked all the boxes and can go ahead and also operate. And so it was there that they asked Mr. Yao Kwakwa if he was aware that his appointment had been terminated, and he said he was not aware. Let's take a look at that video, and later we'll also take a look at another video from the Deputy Transport Minister who explained why they could not tell the media earlier that it was true that his appointment had been terminated. Take a look.
To know that your appointment as Managing Director has been terminated by the Minister of Transport. Your reaction to this?
I don't know what you're talking about. My appointment has not been terminated, so if you have friendship that if you please give it to me.
Will you be surprised if that's the case, though?
I don't know about it. So when I get, exactly. When I get to that bridge, I'll cross it.
Whilst we talk about the current issues, we're just getting the letter addressed to the board chairman of the Ghana Airport Company. That
we will not speak to that now.
Mr. Tampuli, this is your boss, the Minister Koko Foria Sema.
Let's defer this matter. Let's deal with the current issue now, please. Let's deal with the current issue. This is the man. He has not cited any such letter. He is not aware. So, and this is not the medium through which, even if there is such a letter, he will be communicated with. Let's leave that matter for now.
But your boss don't sign the letter.
Have you cited it yourself?
Let's deal with this matter at a later time. For now, it's the visit of the Parliamentary Select Committee to see whether this place is fit enough for the purpose for which McDan has applied for. That's what is important.
So you are aware of the letter? You are aware of the letter?
I would not speak to any matter of this kind of speculation for now.
Many thanks. So that
it's addressed to the board chairman.
It's addressed to the board chairman. Yeah, so that is how it's supposed to be done. Because it's a company. So it's regulated under the Companies Act. So the letter is written to the board chairman, and the board chairman will now convene a board meeting at which all the necessary steps will be undertaken pursuant to the Companies Act. So it's confirmed.
But why is he being dismissed?
Have you cited a copy of his appointment letter?
No, please.
The appointment letter doesn't say why he was appointed. I don't know why it should be stated why he has been relieved of his position.
There's word around that this is because of the tussle over the facility we went to inspect today with the Parliamentary Select Committee, of which you were there. When we put the question to you there and himself, he said he was not aware.
Did you see that in the letter?
It's not in the letter, but a lot of things happen. This is government.
Yes, so the president has the prerogative to appoint and has the prerogative to relieve of the people of their positions. When the president is appointing, he doesn't give reasons. And by the same parity of reason, the president doesn't give reasons when he's relieving people of their positions. So this is something that has been going on in this country.
That is Honorable Hassan Tampili. He's the Deputy Transport Minister, and he says that, well, the president did not need to give reasons as to why the appointment of Mr. Yakwakwa was terminated. You notice that sometime in 2019 was when he took over after he had served as deputy to Mr. John Deche Matefua, who was also axed out of office in a similar fashion. And questions have been raised about this particular decision. The timing, for one, which is leaving room for conjecture, and also the fact that it is the president who asked for him to be dismissed. Gabriela, what are your thoughts on this particular development?
It's a very awkward situation for one to find him or herself. I mean, it will be so embarrassing in the middle of a tour with pressmen to be asked the question, are you aware you've been fired? And at that moment, your legitimacy for even taking Parliamentary Select Committee on tour is questioned. And I'm very sorry for what has happened to him. But this whole thing with this McDan private jet lounge, I come from a different perspective about this whole thing. You see,
we've been told, by the way, we're hearing from some
that it's not been approved.
That is not the reason that his appointment was terminated, by the way. So just to put that out there.
So what was the reason given?
Well, the deputy minister says that the president does not owe us any
explanation.
Yes.
But isn't it interesting that there was a lot of back and forth with his signature on documents around this private lounge thing? You know, years ago, I had the privilege of being in Mumbai. And the hotel that I was in, my room had a view of a marina. And that was my first time seeing a marina. So I watched these boats come in, people from all over, and they'll bring them into the hotel, and it was a very vibrant marina. Then I heard we were going to develop a similar concept along the coast of Accra. And for years, they've done the clearing, but the project hasn't really taken off. But I kept thinking, can you think about the prospect for tourism and the caliber of tourists we'll be attracting if they could do this thing could take off? And then I had, I was watching an interview with Dr. What's his name? Macaulay?
Yeah.
Or
Daniel Macaulay.
Which the McDan is easier for me.
McDan is more popular, yes.
Okay. So I was watching an interview of McDan on Joy News. And I was saying to myself, like the whole marina concept, can you imagine all these guys who trade in stocks and stuff and are almost always in the air, passing through Accra for the night, for 2 nights? The Accra scene is changing. Accra is becoming like a hotspot for short travels. Yeah. So imagine these people come with their jets and then they'll just spend the night. It helps the local tourism industry because we are changing the people we attract from the usual backpackers kind of tourist attraction who go to our castles and forests to another pedigree of tourists who spend a lot of cash whenever they visit a location. And this kind of infrastructure helps to attract that kind of crowd. Whether it is a private lounge, whether it's a development of a marina, there's a particular spectrum of tourists that this infrastructure attracts. Look at Temahabo. It's actually a cargo port. Once in a while, at least twice in a year, some cruise ship will come for tourists to spend the night in Accra and go back. But if you see how cruise ship tourism is boosting the Caribbean, and we're on the west coast of the U.S., sorry, the east coast of the U.S., but we're on the west side. So that whole Atlantic Ocean, 2 weeks travel by ship, and imagine the tourism that can also attract to Ghana. And thinking forward, I was looking at all these various modes of transport. My background is actually in transportation, my first background. So I was looking at all these modes of transportation and how this can attract and improve on our tourism spectrum. So I said to myself, it's not a bad idea, actually. Considering also that the T1, Terminal 1, after they moved the local flights to Terminal 2, has been idle for a long time. And the airport has done next to nothing with that infrastructure. This is a private man's investment. He took the risk. Government's interest in is pay me my rent and follow air safety protocols. So for me, it's not about the personalities, it's about the vision and the concept and what it can do for the city of Accra. If you read a lot of these tourism magazines and stuff, they all have very good reviews on the city of Accra. And Accra is evolving. So let's appreciate that. My village is 40 kilometers from Accra. If Accra develops, the people from my village, they can travel here to come and work and go back. So it's in my interest to see Accra develop. The back and forth of who owns what and how the transaction went on and all that, fine, I appreciate that due process ought to be followed. But I pay attention to the bigger picture. So,
yeah, but even with the bigger picture, like you're saying, if you don't follow the due processes, then there's no way you can be allowed. This is a high security zone.
But he didn't get up and then start refurbishing that lounge.
Well, they told him
there is
that
no
he
way.
had to
It
raise
is practically impossible for anybody. Bella, as you sit here, as popular as you are, you can't go and put a stand in front of the airport, and because your name is Bella, people will just avoid you.
But in this case, they're saying that he needed to present a plan of construction operation. He did not do that. He also owes some $4 million, and he had only paid just about $1 million.
Okay, so he was supposed to present a plan of whatever. The airports company sat down for him to spend a whole year refurbishing this thing, and you never demanded that construction plan from them.
They demanded when he was constructing. That is when the security went on a routine check.
When did they stop?
And alerted him.
When did they stop this project? I went to the launch. He personally invited me. I did a status update when I was watching his interview on my Facebook, and apparently my friend is Natalan Auto.
Okay.
He took a screenshot and went to snitch on me. So when it was time for the launch, the gentleman invited me with a bottle of champagne. Apparently that was the invitation. So I was there, and I saw the whole concept, the whole layout, and for me, it's cool. If you said he did not present all these things, all that time that these processes were going on, why did you not stop it? I was there when Madame Oboshi,
Oboshi Saikofi,
yes, came to give her speech, that this process started when she was aviation minister. So it's not a 2 weeks refurbishment that took place there.
But a letter came from Magdan Aviation, and they acknowledged that they needed to hold on and go back and also deliberate because, you know, there were some breaches here and there.
I agree to that. That due process ought to be there. My question is, whilst that construction was going on, civil aviation, you were there. Why did you not put an injunction on the works and demand that these things be done so you can continue? You watched him finish the place, furbish the place, do his launch. Then the day of his launch, then you wrote a letter that the launch cannot come on. By which time the launch had already taken place.
So are you linking this to
there was so much incompetence.
Of Mr. Yapapa?
There was so much incompetence on the side of whether Civil Aviation or Ghana Airports Company, whoever is responsible for the airport Terminal 1 infrastructure.
Is that probably not why the MD was asked to step down?
So why should I pity him?
Okay.
There was also unprofessionalism around the way the whole thing was done. Look at the poor guy. This is what happens to ministers when they are on the field and they are reshuffled. All they hear is that you've been sacked. You are going home. Not MDs. The letter, he was not even aware. I'm sorry. He was not even aware of the content of the letter that sacked him. But we on social media had already seen that he had been fired. It was like he was the last person to know that he had been fired. So unfair.
Okay, Loretta, so Mr. Kofi Bentel of Imani Africa wrote this. He says that, so the president instructs his executive secretary to write to the Minister of Transport, instructing him to write to the board chairman and to order him to write to the Ghana Airport's managing director, telling him that he's been dismissed. So he's raising eyebrows and asking that, was it the president's, job in the first place to be the one to ask him to be fired? Because he says that what's the use of the board of directors if the president can issue directives to them? Let's save the money then that we're wasting on them. The president should just run the place.
Bella, the environment we find ourselves in as politicians is a very risky environment. Nobody wishes this on anybody, but that's the space we find ourselves in. A second is a very long time in the life of a politician or a government appointee. You can wake up one day as an appointee and the next moment you are not. It's a high risk thing. But as the Deputy Minister said, the President has the prerogative to hire and fire. So I think we need to give him that respect. Just as when a coach decides that I'm substituting a player, we don't go asking them why they're substituting a player, because they have that responsibility at that moment to make the substitution or keep the 11 players to play from first minute to 90 minutes. It's not something anybody is happy about, but it has happened.
Who leaked the letter to the press? Because clearly Mr. Kwakwa was not even aware of it when the press asked him.
Well,
and this was supposed to be a letter directed to the board chair of the Ghana Airports Company Limited. And from the Deputy Minister's explanation, there's supposed to be a process. So the board chair and his board members are supposed to meet, deliberate, and then subsequently the processes will be followed. But this got to the public, it got to the media, even before the person who had been fired found out. Who leaked it?
Bella, asking me who leaked this letter is like asking me what will happen tomorrow. How am I supposed to know that?
But how did the letter then get to the public?
How did the letter then get to the public? I don't work with the Ministry of Transport. And how did you get it?
It was leaked online.
How did you get it?
It was leaked online. It was shared on social media. It was shared on social media.
These are things that shouldn't be happening. These are sensitive documents that shouldn't be happening. But it has happened. I believe the right authorities will trace the source, but it has happened. And it keeps happening. You media houses also leak information that you are privileged to.
But you cannot blame the media for this.
You go to play. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying it's something that happens.
Okay.
People leak information. We all need to be responsible. This is someone's brother. This is someone's father. This is someone's benefactor and all that. The man was on the job. Only for him to know. These are not things that should happen. We should be sensitive. I think we are, as a people, we are gradually departing from what makes us Ghanaians. You know, the sensationalization, the insensitivity is getting up to. But it's unfortunate. I can sit here and split my head over why he was sacked. The person who employed him thinks he served his purpose and must move on.
But are we not leaving room for conjecture?
When he was
Because, again, the Magdan issue happened not too long ago. But then we also know that the workers at the airports were also agitating for a very long time. And in fact, yesterday, one of them spoke and he said that there had been delays in payments. Workers' welfare was something that they always agitated about. And so for them, they had been worried about a number of these things. But they had waited so long. Government had not done anything about it. So they decided to learn to live and work with him as their boss.
We share our opinions on things that are put in public. We share our opinions on issues that come up to our media general. Over the past few years, you sacked 2 known female employees. People made opinions. Did it change anything? It didn't change. Right. You were employed, and you decided that you didn't need them anymore. You laid them off.
But Media General is a private institution.
Well,
we're talking about the government
but
of
it's
Ghana.
Also part
and so
of
we cannot
Bella,
equate
you
it.
Said,
we cannot equate it. It's a private institution.
People are conjecturing. People are sharing their opinions. And I'm telling you, things happen. Just as it happened at Media General when you fired those 2 female presenters. People share their opinions.
But this is a private institution.
This is a private institution. Fine. But we have stake in it. If we don't watch or participate in what you broadcast, how do you survive?
But Ghanaians don't pay their taxes to us. Ghanaians pay their taxes to government, and government is supposed to use the taxes for what it ought to be used for. And so if there's a high and fire, you don't think that there should be some explanation so we don't conjecture?
The Ghanaians pay their taxes to the state. Government utilizes those taxes to do it. You voted in a president, an executive president for that matter. He appointed a team. You didn't ask him why he appointed A, B, C, D. You gave him that benefit of the doubt to choose the right people to help him achieve his vision. Because he came to you with a vision. He came to you with a plan. And you bought into that plan and gave him the mandate. He chose his team. And at this point, he says, I don't need this person on my team. Where's the justification in going to ask him, why are you taking this? People can share their opinions. Let's draw the lines where we need to draw the lines. It's not something that should happen to anybody. It's a painful thing. I wouldn't even want it on someone in opposition, right? We sit here and Gabriela gets and said, you've been fired as member of the communications team. You don't know how they assessed it. I could be sitting here the next moment, I'm fired or I'm suspended. It happens. It's a risky venture. The risk when it comes to politics is high.
So what's next for the Ghana Airports Company Limited? I mean, that position is vacant now. We're not being told anything. Do you know?
That's like asking me to go into the presidency.
Well, you're communicating for government.
Yes, I'm communicating
and so I'm
for government.
if you should know, in case you know.
I'm communicating for government. But if I'm coming here and you tell me, Laratu, we want you to let us know A, B, C, D. I will do my homework before coming.
So but you didn't think that we're going to talk about the situation that happened at the airport company
limited?
You're
going to talk about.
Okay.
I came here.
So you don't know what is next.
I don't know what is next.
Okay.
We leave it to the president, just as he appointed Mr. Kwakwa, and you are happy and you think he shouldn't go. I believe he appoints another person who.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this morning to speak on issues that matter. And I have been speaking to Laratu Musa Saka. She is a member of the NPP communications team, and Gabriela Tete is a member of the NDC communications team.